Hi everyone, Joe here. Welcome back to the Cheeky Engine. You find me in a really drizzly February's day here in the seaside town of Margate, home to iconic land structures, as you can see behind me, iconic filming locations like the legendary Jolly Boys outing, and of course I'm here to actually explore the railways of Margate. So Margates actually have a number of railways come and go throughout this lifetime, situated here at the iconic Dreamland, over to the pier, and even the famous Margate Lido. And they have just announced the town will be losing another piece of heritage here. Ignore the clock photo bombing video. But yeah, I thought would be the perfect time to come and have a look at the lost heritage here at Margate, specifically the railways, and of course we will discuss what's happening in that structure behind me.
So in this video we're going to take a deep dive into the lost railway heritage of Margate. Now we're not going to focus on the main line in today's video, but more specifically the miniature railways and possibly the smallest funicular railway in the UK and the uncertain future of an icon of Margate's skyline. So we'll start off with Dreamland Amusement Park. First opening in 1880 to visitors, the park has seen a number of attractions come and go throughout the years, but there is one in particular that has since been lost for a number of years now, and that is of course the Dreamland Miniature Railway.
Now, believe it or not, Dreamland actually dates all the way back to 1867. Well, that's where its history actually started from, and it actually did start with railway origins, specifically a dispute between the London, Chatham and Dover Railway and the then South Eastern Railway, and it all started with a dispute over the terminus.
So Dreamland's journey starts with the London, Chatham and Dover Railway getting into dispute with the South Eastern Railway. An argument broke out between the two due to the LCDRs building a station on Marine Terrace right next door to their competitors. This led to the London, Chatham and Dover Railway vacating their terminus, and so it was taken over and transformed into Hall by the Sea.
Now, going through a few years later on, it wouldn't be until 1919 till John Henry Ellis decided to take over the park and turn it into the American style amusement park, which we now know today as Dreamland. Now, following on from that, it would then be 1920 that we would then see our very first lost railway on this list.
So the 15-inch gauge railway at Dreamland Margate opened in June 1920 and was designed by famed miniature railway engineer Henry Greenley. It originally formed a loop around the edge of the park, but due to redevelopment it was cut back to a shorter out and back run in 1924. The first loco on the line, seen in this picture, was number 15 Prince Edward of Wales, originally built by Bassett Loke in 1909 for the Imperial International Exhibition held in White City that same year. After a spell at Rhyl, it arrived at Margate in 1920 after previously being named the Red Dragon. The second steam loco, which was larger and more powerful, arrived in 1924 from Albert Barnes of Rhyl. This was another 442 which was named Billy. In 1959 a petrol loco was acquired second-hand from a private railway in Haywards Heath, having been built by Morse back in the 1930s. Prince Edward of Wales was last used in the early 1960s and ended up in storage out of use. It was sold to a couple of enthusiasts in 1968 who cannibalised it for the parts to help rebuild another loco.
And so we get to 1979 where the 15-inch gauge miniature railway did depart the park. Now, a lot of the rolling stock was actually sold off and it was sent off to other places to operate. A few items still actually survive just up the road. But yeah, sadly the miniature railway disappeared and unfortunately it is now just lost to Margate's memories. But let's move on to our second location. You now find me in my second location here in these Lost Railways list of Margate, and I'm here on a rather windswept Margate Pier. Right behind me you can see the iconic Margate Lighthouse looming in the background. Now it is here that in 1948, part of the White Suns development, that our second miniature railway on this list was created.
In In 1948, there was a 10¼ inch gauge miniature railway situated on Margate Pier. The line was approximately 230 yards long and ran along the upper promenade on the pier. At the Land's End of the railway, 2 platforms were in evidence, flanked either side of the single track, and at the seaward end, just short of the lighthouse, the line terminated with a curved metal shed. The motive power was stated to be in the form of a miniature 462A3 Pacific locomotive. The Steam Hall Railway had a 15-year existence, 1963 being its last season. From 64 onwards, it was replaced with a 10¼ inch gauge railway on the 1855 opened iron-built Margate jetty, situated to the east of the harbour arm. From the outset, the 1964 jetty railway was diesel-hauled, a miniature replica of a Western Class 52 diesel hydraulic locomotive, having been built specifically for the tourist line. The replacement line lasted little over a decade. The last season was summer 1974.
Now, if you come up to the top part of the pier, where we currently are, something I did just notice. Now, if you have a look on the ground, you do have these structures, these shapes, and they seem to go on for quite a while along the pier before you can tell where the new concrete has been laid over. Now, I just wonder whether this is evidence of where the sleepers would have been for this 10¼ inch gauge miniature railway. I could be completely mistaken. It might not be the case at all. It might just be something completely different. But it just made me wonder whether this is evidence of the railway here still existing. Yeah, I'd be interested to know what anyone else thinks.
And you find me in my final location here, the Lost Railways of Margate. Now, right behind me you can see the sign. I'm standing in the former pool here at the iconic Cliftonville Lido, sadly in a dilapidated state now, to which it once was. Opened in 1920s by the iconic John Henry Ellis, the famous man we mentioned earlier, who originally opened up and transformed Dreamland to what it is to this day. But I'm more interested in the lost little railway that was here, that opened up a few years before.
And so this is the final location on my list. This is the old Margate Funicular Railway. It was originally opened up in 1913/1914. They would ferry people down here from the seafront up to the entrance to the Lido. This actually supersedes the original Lido, like I say, opening up in 1913/14, the Lido opening up in 1920. But it was a really, really great little transportation system. And one thing I am quite interested in, particularly, is this the smallest funicular in the UK, or was it the smallest funicular in the UK? Let me know down in the comments. I know you've got the lift down in Southend-on-Sea. That's very, very small. I believe this is only around 60 feet in length, so I think it's up there. I really do. It's a pointless little funicular railway, but it's a great part of the railway history here in Margate.
So the Margate Cliff Railway was originally opened in the winter of 1912-1913 by Waygood Otis and ran from June to September. The entrance of the Cliff Railway was east of the Lido Pool and opposite Athelstan Road. It was shut in the late 1970s, although some parts are still now visible. The lift originally ran down a 45-degree slope behind a brick retaining wall parallel to the cliff face. The counterbalanced weight was in a vertical shaft. The closure of the Cliff Railway was presumably a victim of the January 1978 storm, which saw the demise of both the Margate Pier and the Lido. Sadly, the Lido does still sit in a dilapidated state, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like the future is very bright for this iconic Margate landmark.
So you find me here, back where I first started the video this morning, outside the iconic Margate Dreamland. And of course we've taken a look at the former 15-inch gauge railway that used to run here on the site. We've taken a look at the site where you had the 10.25-inch gauge on Margate Pier. And of course we visited the iconic Margate Lido, home to the former funicular railway, all sadly gone. Now there is one elephant in the room I have yet to mention in this video. Railway by name, but not necessarily by nature, but it is a huge part of Margate's heritage and history, and sadly this iconic attraction here behind me, of course it is the scenic railway, is going to be no more. Or is it?
Scenic Railway first opened at Dreamland in 1920. The ride was distinctive compared to modern day roller coasters, requiring a brakeman to control the train's speed, manually applying brakes when needed. UK's English Heritage granted the roller coaster Grade 2 listed status back in 2002, when it was the oldest operating roller coaster in the UK and one of only 8 scenic railways anywhere in the world. The scenic railway was non-operational from 2006 until 2015 amid part closure and restoration following an arson attack. The ride was then closed in August 2024 due to a derailment accident and has remained standing but non-operational since. Now, it was only recently in January this year it was announced that the ride would no longer operate and would see early retirement. Now, following Dreamland's statement stating that the ride would go into early retirement, they have asked the public for any ideas to reimagine the roller coaster's purpose. Now, Helen Whitehead, Deputy Leader of Thanet District Council, has written to Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, insisting the ride is of international importance and of historical and cultural significance. Dreamland has stated due to the derailment in 2024, the ride would require 5 hours of daily checks before it could then be operational and open to the public. Personally, it's a little bit sceptical with the 5-hour checks daily. There are other scenic railways in the world, like I say, it's one of 8 in the world, and of course we do have another one here in the country, and I don't see them performing 5-hour daily checks to be able to get that ride operational. So it does beg the question, are Dreamland really interested in keeping this ride operational or keeping Dreamland open itself for a theme park, or are they more interested in the concerts, which to be fair do bring in a lot of revenue, and is it more to do with Live Nation who run the concerts?
So that's been my little trip here to the iconic seaside town of Margate, revisiting some of the historic railway attractions that the town used to boast. Sadly, they are all no longer here, but hopefully the scenic railway, it's a Grade 2 listed building, it can't ever be moved, it can't ever be demolished, so it is here to stay, but sadly might never run again. Hopefully that's not the case. It's not another part of the heritage that the town can afford to lose, and I don't think it will, to be fair. Like I say, it's a little bit dodgy what the park have stated, and you know, Live Nation who do the events here, I have a funny feeling it's more to do with focus on the events rather than keeping the heritage up and running. 5 hours a day for inspections, I just don't see it. I really don't. But let me know down in the comments what you think. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. My name's Joe, the Cheeky Engine, and I'll see you in the next one. See you guys.